Your external world is nothing more than a reflection of your internal world. If you're broke, it's because you're mentally broke first. If you're unsuccessful, it's because you've convinced yourself you can't succeed. The conversation in your head is either making you rich or keeping you poor, and most people are choosing poverty without even realizing it. Successful people know this secret that poor people refuse to accept. Let me tell you something that will change your life forever if you really understand it. Right now as you sit there, there's a voice in your head talking to you. It's been talking to you all day long. It talked to you when you woke up this morning. It's talking to you right now. And it will be the last voice you hear before you go to sleep tonight. This voice is either your best friend or your worst enemy. And for most people, sadly, it's their worst enemy. You see, the most important conversation you'll ever have is the one you have with yourself. Not with your spouse, not with your boss, not with your kids, but with yourself. Because the way you talk to yourself determines everything. It determines how you feel, how you act, what you believe is possible, and ultimately what you achieve in life. Most people go through life being meaner to themselves than they would ever be to a stranger on the street. They call themselves names, they put themselves down, they focus on everything that's wrong instead of what's right. And then they wonder why their life isn't working out the way they want it to. Here's what I learned after years of studying successful people and unsuccessful people. The difference between them isn't talent, it's not luck, it's not even circumstances. The difference is how they talk to themselves. Successful people have learned to be their own best friend, their own coach, their own cheerleader. Unsuccessful people have made themselves their own worst enemy. I remember when I was broke and struggling, barely making ends meet. I was so hard on myself. Every morning I'd wake up and the first thing I'd think was, "You're such a failure. Look at you, can't even pay your bills. You're never going to amount to anything." And you know what? I was right. As long as I kept talking to myself like that, I kept proving myself right. But then something changed. I met a man who became my mentor, and he taught me something that transformed my entire life. He said, "Jim, you've got to fire yourself as your own worst critic and hire yourself as your own best coach." That's when I realized that the conversation in my head was creating my reality. So I started an experiment. I decided to change how I talk to myself for 21 days, just 21 days. And let me tell you, by the end of those 21 days, I was a different person. My confidence was different, my energy was different, my results were different. Everything changed because I changed the conversation I was having with myself. Why 21 days? Because that's how long it takes to start forming a new habit. It takes 21 days for your brain to start accepting new patterns of thinking as normal. 21 days to rewire the neural pathways that have been keeping you stuck. 21 days to go from being your own worst enemy to becoming your own best friend. But here's the thing about negative self-talk that most people don't understand. It doesn't just hurt your feelings, it literally destroys your dreams before they even have a chance to grow. Every time you tell yourself, "I can't do this," or "I'm not good enough," or "I always mess things up," you're programming your subconscious mind to prove you right. Now, your subconscious mind doesn't know the difference between what's real and what's imagined. It just takes whatever you tell it most often and most emotionally and makes it your reality. So if you're constantly telling yourself you're not capable, your subconscious mind will work overtime to make sure you're not capable. It will sabotage your efforts. It will make you procrastinate. It will cause you to give up at the first sign of difficulty. Think about it. How many times have you talked yourself out of trying something new? How many times have you said, "I could never do that," before you even attempted it? How many opportunities have you missed because you convinced yourself you weren't qualified, you weren't ready, you weren't good enough? The cost of negative self-talk is enormous. It cost you opportunities, it cost you relationships, it cost you money, it cost you happiness, but most of all, it cost you your dreams. Every dream that dies first in the conversation you have with yourself. I've seen people with incredible talent waste their lives because they couldn't stop putting themselves down. I've seen people with average ability achieve extraordinary results because they learned to speak to themselves with respect and encouragement. The difference wasn't in their circumstances, the difference was in their internal dialogue. Let me give you some examples of the destructive conversations people have with themselves every day. They wake up and immediately start. I'm so tired, I don't want to go to work, I hate Mondays, I'm getting old, I'm getting fat, I'm broke, I'm stressed, I can't handle this. And then they wonder why they feel terrible and why their life isn't improving. Or they try something new and the first time it doesn't work perfectly, they say, see, I knew I couldn't do it. Well, I'm just not cut out for this. I should have never tried. I'm so stupid. I always fail at everything. And then they quit, proving themselves right once again. This kind of self-talk becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. You tell yourself you're going to fail, so you don't put in your best effort. You don't put in your best effort, so you don't get the results you want. You don't get the results you want, so you tell yourself you were right all along, and the cycle continues. But here's the good news. Just as negative self-talk creates negative results, positive self-talk creates positive results. The same mental mechanism that's been working against you can start working for you. All you have to do is change the conversation. Now, I'm not talking about positive thinking without action. I'm not talking about standing in front of a mirror saying, I'm rich when you're broke. That's not what this is about. This is about changing the way you speak to yourself so that you can take the actions that will actually change your life. Successful people have learned to speak to themselves differently. Instead of saying, I can't, they say, how can I? Instead of saying, I'm not good enough, they say, I'm getting better every day. Instead of saying, I always mess up, they say, I learn from my mistakes and I keep improving. They understand that the quality of their life is determined by the quality of the questions they ask themselves. Poor people ask poor questions like, why does this always happen to me? And why can't I ever get ahead? Successful people ask better questions like, what can I learn from this? And how can I use this to become stronger? The language you use when you talk to yourself literally shapes your identity. When you say, I am, followed by anything, you're making a declaration about who you are. If you say, I am broke, you're not just describing your current financial situation, you're declaring your identity as someone who is broke. If you say, I am stupid, you're not just acknowledging a mistake, you're declaring your identity as someone who is stupid. But when you change your I am statements, you change your identity. Instead of I am broke, you say I am building wealth. Instead of I am stupid, you say I am learning and growing. Instead of I am a failure, you say I am someone who learns from every experience. This isn't just feel-good talk. This is how you reprogram your mind for success. Your brain will work to make whatever you declare about yourself become true. If you declare yourself as someone who is learning and growing, your brain will look for opportunities to learn and grow. If you declare yourself as someone who is building wealth, your brain will start noticing opportunities to build wealth. The most successful people I know have learned to reframe everything in their minds. They don't see problems, they see opportunities. They don't see failures, they see feedback. They don't see obstacles, they see challenges that will make them stronger. When something goes wrong, instead of saying, why me, they say, what can I learn from this? When they face a difficult situation, instead of saying, I can't handle this, they say, this is helping me grow. When they make a mistake, instead of saying, I'm so stupid, they say, now I know what doesn't work. There's a huge difference between saying, I have to go to work, and saying, I get to go to work. One makes you feel like a victim, the other makes you feel grateful. There's a difference between saying, I have to exercise, and saying, I get to take care of my body. One feels like punishment, the other feels like self-care. When you change your language, you change your experience. When you change your experience, you change your results. When you change your results, you change your life. But here's what you need to understand about failure and setbacks. They're going to happen. The difference between successful people and unsuccessful people isn't that successful people don't fail. The difference is in how they talk to themselves about failure. When unsuccessful people fail, they say things like, I knew I couldn't do it. I'm just not cut out for this. I should give up. But when successful people fail, they say things like, this is just feedback. Now I know what doesn't work. I'm learning and improving. I'll figure this out. The failure is the same, but the conversation is completely different. And that conversation determines whether you quit or whether you keep going. It determines whether you see failure as the end of the story or just the beginning of the next chapter. Now let me share with you exactly how to transform your self-talk in 21 days. This isn't theory. This is a practical system that works if you work it. First, you need to become aware of your current self-talk. Most people have no idea how negatively they speak to themselves because it's become so automatic. So for the first few days, just pay attention. Notice what you're saying to yourself when you wake up, when you're driving, when you're working, when you're going to sleep. Don't try to change it yet, just notice it. You'll probably be shocked at how mean you are to yourself. You'll notice that you say things to yourself that you would never say to someone you care about. This awareness is the first step to change. Next, you need to create new phrases to replace the old ones. Instead of, I can't do this, you'll say, I'm learning how to do this. Instead of, I'm not good enough, you'll say, I'm getting better every day. Instead of, I always mess up, you'll say, I learn from my mistakes and keep improving. Here are some powerful phrases to start using immediately. When you wake up in the morning, instead of complaining about being tired, say, I'm grateful for another day to grow and improve. When you face a challenge, instead of saying, this is too hard, say, this is making me stronger. When you make a mistake, instead of calling yourself names, say, I'm learning and getting better. Start your day by having a conversation with yourself about what you want to accomplish and who you want to become. Say things like, today I choose to be patient and kind. Today I choose to see opportunities instead of problems. Today I choose to take action toward my goals. This sets the tone for your entire day. Throughout the day, catch yourself when you start talking negatively. Don't beat yourself up about it, just gently correct it. If you catch yourself saying, I can't afford this, immediately change it to, how can I afford this? If you catch yourself saying, I'm too old, change it to, I have valuable experience and wisdom. In the evening, have a conversation with yourself about what went well during the day. Instead of focusing on what went wrong, focus on what you learned, what you accomplished, and what you're grateful for. End your day by saying, I'm proud of myself for growing today. Tomorrow, I'll be even better. The key is consistency, not perfection. You don't have to be perfect at this. You just have to be consistent. Every time you catch yourself speaking negatively, you correct it. Every time you correct it, you're building a new habit. Every time you build a new habit, you're changing your life. Here's what you can expect during your 21-day transformation. The first few days will feel awkward. You'll forget to pay attention to your self-talk. You'll catch yourself being negative after the fact. That's normal. Don't give up. Around day 7, you'll start becoming more aware of your internal dialogue in real time. You'll catch yourself being negative sooner and correct it faster. You'll start to feel slightly different, more hopeful, more confident. By day 14, the new way of talking to yourself will start feeling more natural. You'll notice that you're taking different actions, making different choices, responding to challenges differently. People might even comment that you seem different. By day 21, you'll be amazed at how different you feel. Your confidence will be higher, your energy will be better, your outlook will be more positive. You'll realize that you've been your own worst enemy for years, and now you're becoming your own best friend. But here's the most important part. The way you talk to yourself doesn't just change how you feel, it changes how you act. And when you change how you act, you change your results. When you change your results, you change your life. When you start speaking to yourself with respect and encouragement, you start taking better care of yourself, you eat better, you exercise more, you sleep better, you start setting boundaries with people who don't treat you well, You start pursuing opportunities that you previously thought were impossible. You'll find that your relationships improve because you're not constantly seeking validation from others. You'll find that your work performance improves because you're not paralyzed by fear of failure. You'll find that you're more creative, more confident, more willing to take calculated risks. The ripple effect of changing your self-talk is incredible. When you stop being your own worst enemy and start being your own best friend, everything in your life begins to shift. Opportunities that you couldn't see before become obvious. Solutions that seemed impossible become clear. Goals that seemed out of reach become achievable. But maintaining this new way of speaking to yourself requires ongoing commitment. It's not something you do for 21 days and then forget about. It's a lifelong practice. Just like you brush your teeth every day to maintain good dental health, you need to maintain good mental health by speaking to yourself with kindness and respect every day. The most successful people in the world have mastered this skill. They've learned to be their own coach, their own cheerleader, their own best friend. They've learned that the conversation in their head is the most important conversation they'll ever have. And here's something beautiful that happens when you change your self-talk. You start influencing others to change theirs. When people see how you speak to yourself, how you handle challenges, how you respond to setbacks, they want to know your secret. You become a living example of what's possible when you treat yourself with respect and kindness. Your children will learn from watching you. Your colleagues will be inspired by your confidence. Your friends will be attracted to your positive energy. You'll become the kind of person who lifts others up instead of tearing them down, starting with yourself. Think about the compound effect of positive self-talk over time. If you speak to yourself with kindness and respect every day for a year, how different will your life be? If you do it for 5 years, if you do it for 10 years, the cumulative effect is extraordinary. Every word you speak to yourself is either moving you toward your goals or away from them. Every internal conversation is either building your confidence or destroying it. Every thought you allow to dominate your mind is either empowering you or disempowering you. The choice is yours. You can continue being your own worst enemy, or you can start being your own best friend. You can continue talking yourself out of opportunities, or you can start talking yourself into them. You can continue focusing on everything that's wrong, or you can start focusing on everything that's possible. But here's what I want you to understand. This isn't just about feeling better about yourself, although that will happen. This isn't just about having more confidence, although that will happen too. This is about fundamentally changing the trajectory of your life. When you change the conversation in your head, you change your actions. When you change your actions, you change your results. When you change your results, you change your life. And when you change your life, you change the lives of everyone around you. The person you become through this process will be capable of things the old you never dreamed possible. You'll pursue opportunities the old you would have been too afraid to pursue. You'll persist through challenges the old you would have given up on. You'll believe in possibilities the old you would have dismissed as impossible. So here's my challenge to you. Starting today, right now, begin the 21-day transformation. Make the decision that you're going to fire yourself as your own worst critic and hire yourself as your own best coach. Make the decision that you're going to speak to yourself with the same kindness and respect you would show to someone you love. Don't wait until tomorrow. Don't wait until Monday. Don't wait until you feel ready. Start now, because the conversation in your head is happening right now, and it's either helping you or hurting you. There's no neutral ground. Remember, you're going to be talking to yourself for the rest of your life. You might as well make it a conversation that serves you instead of sabotages you. You might as well make it a conversation that builds you up instead of tears you down. You might as well make it a conversation that moves you toward your dreams instead of away from them. The next 21 days are going to pass whether you do this or not. The question is, who do you want to be 21 days from now? Do you want to be the same person you are today, or do you want to be someone who has learned to be their own best friend? The choice is yours. The power is in your hands. The conversation starts now. What are you going to say to yourself? Let me leave you with this thought. The most successful people in the world aren't lucky. They're not more talented than you. They're not smarter than you. They just learn to speak to themselves differently. They learn to be their own advocate instead of their own enemy. They learn to encourage themselves instead of discouraging themselves. You have that same power. You have that same ability. You have that same opportunity. The only question is whether you're going to use it. So speak to yourself like this for the next 21 days and watch your life change. Be patient with yourself. Be kind to yourself. Be encouraging to yourself. Treat yourself like someone you care about, because you should care about yourself. You're the only you that you've got. Your future self is counting on you to make this change. Your dreams are counting on you to make this change. Your family is counting on you to make this change. But most importantly, you're counting on you to make this change. The conversation in your head will either be the reason you succeed or the reason you fail. The choice is yours. Choose wisely. Choose today. Choose to be your own best friend. 21 days, that's all it takes to start changing your life forever. Are you ready to begin? Now let me share with you some specific examples of how this works in real life, because I want you to understand that this isn't just theory. This is practical wisdom that real people use to create real results. I knew a woman who was struggling with her weight. She'd been overweight for years, tried every diet, joined every gym, but nothing worked. You know why? Because every morning she'd look in the mirror and say, "You're so fat. You're disgusting. You have no willpower. You'll never lose weight." And then she'd wonder why she couldn't stick to a diet. But then she learned about changing her self-talk. Instead of calling herself fat, she started saying, "I'm becoming healthier every day." Instead of saying she had no willpower, she said, "I'm learning to make better choices." Instead of saying she'd never lose weight, she said, "I'm committed to taking care of my body." Within 6 months, she lost 40 pounds. Not because she found a magic diet, but because she changed the conversation in her head. When she stopped being her own worst enemy and started being her own best friend, everything changed. I knew a man who was struggling in his business. He'd been working for years, but couldn't seem to get ahead. Every setback, every rejection, every disappointment would send him into a spiral of negative self-talk. "I'm not cut out for this. I don't have what it takes. I should just give up and get a job." But then he learned to change his internal dialogue. When he faced rejection, instead of taking it personally, he'd say, "This is just part of the process. Every no gets me closer to a yes." When he had a bad day, instead of calling himself a failure, he'd say, "I'm learning valuable lessons that will help me succeed." Within a year, his business had tripled. Not because the market changed, not because he got lucky, but because he changed the conversation in his head. When he stopped defeating himself with negative self-talk and started encouraging himself with positive self-talk, his actions changed, his results changed, his life changed. The key is understanding that your self-talk creates your emotional state, and your emotional state determines your actions. When you talk to yourself negatively, you feel discouraged, defeated, hopeless. When you feel discouraged, defeated, and hopeless, you don't take the actions that would move you toward your goals. But when you talk to yourself positively, you feel confident, motivated, hopeful. When you feel confident, motivated, and hopeful, you take the actions that create the results you want. This is why successful people guard their self-talk so carefully. They know that the conversation in their head is the foundation of everything else. They know that if they let negative thoughts dominate their minds, they'll sabotage their own success. Let me tell you about the power of questions in your self-talk. The questions you ask yourself determine the quality of your life. Most people ask themselves terrible questions. When something goes wrong, they ask, "Why does this always happen to me?" When they face a challenge, they ask, "Why is this so hard?" When they don't get what they want, they ask, "Why can't I ever catch a break?" These questions focus your mind on what's wrong, what's lacking, what's unfair. And when you focus on what's wrong, you feel bad. When you feel bad, you don't take positive action. When you don't take positive action, you don't get positive results. But successful people ask different questions. When something goes wrong, they ask, "What can I learn from this? When they face a challenge, they ask, how can I grow from this? When they don't get what they want, they ask, what do I need to do differently? These questions focus your mind on solutions, on growth, on improvement. And when you focus on solutions, you feel empowered. When you feel empowered, you take positive action. When you take positive action, you get positive results. Here's another powerful technique. Instead of making statements about problems, start making statements about solutions. Instead of saying, I don't have enough money, say, I'm finding new ways to create income. Instead of saying, I don't have enough time, say, I'm learning to manage my time more effectively. This isn't about denying reality. This is about focusing your mind on what you can do about reality. When you focus on problems, you feel overwhelmed. When you focus on solutions, you feel empowered. Let me share with you the concept of identity-based self-talk. This is one of the most powerful techniques for creating lasting change. Instead of focusing on what you want to do or what you want to have, focus on who you want to become. Instead of saying, I want to lose weight, say, I am someone who takes care of their body. Instead of saying, I want to be successful, say, I am someone who creates value for others. Instead of saying, I want to be confident, say, I am someone who believes in themselves. When you speak to yourself about identity, you're not just changing your actions, you're changing who you are. And when you change who you are, everything else changes automatically. Your actions align with your identity. Your results align with your identity. This is why it's so important to be careful about the labels you put on yourself. If you call yourself lazy, you'll act lazy. If you call yourself unlucky, you'll expect bad things to happen. If you call yourself a failure, you'll sabotage your own success. But if you call yourself disciplined, you'll act disciplined. If you call yourself blessed, you'll notice the good things in your life. If you call yourself successful, you'll take actions that lead to success. Your identity is not fixed. It's not something you're born with and stuck with forever. Your identity is something you create through the conversation you have with yourself every day. Every time you say, I am, followed by anything, you're reinforcing your identity. Make sure you're reinforcing the identity that will serve you. Now let me talk about the importance of self-compassion in your internal dialogue. Many people think that being hard on themselves will motivate them to do better. They think that if they're mean enough to themselves, they'll finally change. But the opposite is true. When you're constantly criticizing yourself, you don't feel motivated to improve. You feel defeated and hopeless. You don't take positive action. When you feel defeated and hopeless, you either give up or you self-sabotage. But when you speak to yourself with kindness and compassion, you create an environment where growth is possible. You feel safe to take risks, to make mistakes, to try new things. You feel supported in your efforts to improve. This doesn't mean you lower your standards or make excuses for yourself. It means you treat yourself like someone you care about. It means you encourage yourself instead of discouraging yourself. It means you support yourself instead of sabotaging yourself. Think about how you would speak to a good friend who was struggling. You wouldn't call them names. You wouldn't tell them they're worthless. You wouldn't tell them to give up. You'd be kind, supportive, and encouraging. You'd help them see their strengths and possibilities. That's how you need to speak to yourself. You need to be your own good friend. You need to be your own supporter. You need to be your own encourager. Here's something most people don't realize. The way you speak to yourself affects not just your mental state, but your physical state as well. Negative self-talk creates stress in your body. It raises your cortisol levels. It weakens your immune system. It affects your sleep. It impacts your energy levels. But positive self-talk has the opposite effect. It reduces stress, it boosts your immune system, it improves your sleep, it increases your energy. The conversation in your head literally affects your physical health. This is why changing your self-talk isn't just about success and achievement. It's about living a healthier, happier, more fulfilling life. It's about being the best version of yourself in every area of your life. Let me share with you some advanced techniques for the later stages of your 21-day transformation. Once you've mastered the basics of catching and correcting negative self-talk, you can start using more sophisticated approaches. One technique is called reframing. This is where you take a negative situation and find a positive way to interpret it. Instead of seeing setbacks as failures, you see them as learning opportunities. Instead of seeing challenges as problems, you see them as chances to grow. Instead of seeing criticism as attacks, you see them as feedback. Another technique is future self-talk. This is where you speak to yourself from the perspective of your future self. You imagine the person you'll be in 5 years, 10 years, or 20 years, and you let that person give you advice and encouragement. This helps you see your current challenges from a broader perspective. You can also use gratitude-based self-talk. This is where you regularly acknowledge all the good things in your life, all the progress you've made, all the blessings you've received. This keeps your mind focused on abundance instead of scarcity, on what's working instead of what's not working. Here's what I want you to understand about the long-term effects of this practice. The 21 days is just the beginning. The real magic happens when you make this a lifelong practice. When you consistently speak to yourself with respect and kindness for months and years, the compound effect is extraordinary. You'll develop unshakable self-confidence. Not the fake kind of confidence that comes from pretending you're perfect, but the real kind of confidence that comes from knowing you can handle whatever life throws at you. You'll know that even if you fail, even if you make mistakes, even if you face setbacks, you'll be okay, because you have yourself as your ally instead of your enemy. You'll develop resilience. Life will still have its ups and downs, but you'll bounce back faster from the downs because you won't be adding to your problems with negative self-talk. You'll be solving your problems with positive self-talk. You'll develop clarity. When you're not constantly fighting a war in your head, you can think more clearly, you can make better decisions, you can see opportunities that you couldn't see before, you can find solutions that eluded you before. You'll develop better relationships. When you stop being your own worst enemy, you stop expecting other people to be your enemy too. You'll attract more positive people into your life because you'll be a more positive person. You'll repel negative people because you won't resonate with their negativity anymore. You'll develop better health. The stress of negative self-talk takes a toll on your body. When you eliminate that stress, your body can function better. You'll sleep better, you'll have more energy, you'll feel better physically, you'll develop financial success. When you believe in yourself and your abilities, you take actions that create financial results. You pursue opportunities, you develop skills, you add value to others. Money follows value, and value follows positive action, and positive action follows positive self-talk. But perhaps most importantly, you'll develop peace. The war in your head will end. You'll stop fighting yourself and start supporting yourself. You'll stop being your own worst enemy and start being your own best friend. And that peace will transform every area of your life. This is not just about positive thinking. This is about positive living. This is about creating a life where you're not constantly fighting against yourself, where you're working with yourself instead of against yourself, where you're supporting yourself instead of sabotaging yourself. The most successful people in the world have learned this secret. They've learned that the conversation in their head is the most important conversation they'll ever have. They've learned to make that conversation work for them instead of against them. And now you know the secret too. The question is, what are you going to do with it? Are you going to start the 21-day transformation today, or are you going to keep living with the same negative self-talk that's been holding you back? The choice is yours. But remember, you're going to be talking to yourself for the rest of your life. You might as well make it a conversation that serves you. You might as well make it a conversation that builds you up instead of tears you down. You might as well make it a conversation that moves you toward your dreams instead of away from them. Your future is listening to the conversation in your head right now. What is it hearing? Is it hearing discouragement and defeat? Or is it hearing encouragement and possibility? Is it hearing reasons why you can't? or is it hearing ideas about how you can? The conversation starts now. The transformation starts now. Your new life starts now. What are you going to say to yourself? Let me tell you about something that happens when you truly master this practice. You become what I call a mental millionaire. You might not have $1 million in the bank yet, but you have something even more valuable. You have $1 million mindset. You have the kind of internal dialogue that creates external success. Most people are mentally broke. They're constantly telling themselves they can't afford things. They can't do things. They can't have things. And because they're mentally broke, they stay financially broke. But when you become mentally wealthy through positive self-talk, financial wealth becomes possible. I remember meeting a janitor who had this $1 million mindset. He didn't make much money, but he talked to himself like a successful person. He'd say, I'm learning valuable lessons in this job. I'm developing skills that will serve me later. I'm building character and discipline. Within 5 years, he had started his own cleaning business and was making more money than most college graduates. I also met a wealthy businessman who was mentally broke. He had millions in the bank, but he constantly worried about losing it all. He talked to himself like a victim. The economy is bad, competition is tough, I might lose everything. And you know what? Eventually he did lose everything because his mental poverty created actions that led to financial poverty. Your external world will always match your internal world. If you're mentally wealthy, you'll find ways to become financially wealthy. If you're mentally poor, you'll find ways to stay financially poor, even if you temporarily have money. This is why changing your self-talk is the most practical thing you can do. It's not just about feeling better, although you will feel better. It's about creating the mental foundation for success in every area of your life. Let me share with you what I call the compound conversation effect. Just like money compounds when you invest it wisely, your self-talk compounds over time. Every positive conversation you have with yourself builds on the previous one. Every encouraging word you speak to yourself adds to your confidence account. Every supportive thought you think about yourself strengthens your self-belief. But here's the problem. Negative self-talk compounds too. Every time you put yourself down, you're making a withdrawal from your confidence account. Every time you tell yourself you can't do something, you're weakening your self-belief. Every time you speak to yourself with disrespect, you're building a case against yourself. The question is, what kind of compound interest are you earning on your self-talk? Are you compounding confidence or insecurity? Are you compounding possibility or limitation? Are you compounding hope or despair? Let me tell you about the mirror test. This is something I want you to try starting tomorrow morning. Look at yourself in the mirror and pay attention to what you automatically think. For most people, the first thoughts are critical. I look tired. I'm getting old. I need to lose weight. I look terrible. But what if you changed that conversation? What if you looked in the mirror and said, I'm grateful for this body that carries me through life. I'm proud of myself for working on becoming better. I'm excited about the possibilities this day holds. How do you think that would change your entire day? The mirror doesn't lie, but it also doesn't judge. You're the one doing the judging. You're the one choosing what to focus on. You can choose to focus on what's wrong, or you can choose to focus on what's possible. Here's something most people don't understand about self-talk. It's not just about the words you use, it's about the tone you use. You can say, I'm learning in a defeated tone that makes it sound like an excuse, or you can say, I'm learning in an excited tone that makes it sound like an adventure. You can say, I made a mistake in a tone that sounds like self-condemnation, or you can say, I made a mistake in a tone that sounds like valuable feedback. The words might be the same, but the impact is completely different. Pay attention to the tone of your internal voice. Is it harsh and critical, or is it kind and supportive? Is it discouraging and defeated, or is it encouraging and hopeful? The tone of your self-talk is just as important as the words you use. Let me share with you the concept of self-talk maintenance. Just like your car needs regular maintenance to run properly, your mind needs regular maintenance to function optimally. This means you need to regularly check in with your internal dialogue and make adjustments when necessary. Some days you'll catch yourself slipping back into old patterns of negative self-talk. That's normal. Don't use that as an excuse to give up. Use it as a reminder to get back on track. Mental maintenance is an ongoing process, not a one-time event. Set aside time each week to review your self-talk patterns. Ask yourself, how have I been speaking to myself this week? What patterns am I noticing? What adjustments do I need to make? This kind of regular maintenance will keep your mental software running smoothly. Here's another powerful technique I want to share with you. It's called third-person encouragement. Sometimes it's easier to be kind to yourself if you speak to yourself in the third person using your own name. Instead of saying, I can do this, try saying, John can do this. Instead of saying, I'm proud of myself, try saying, I'm proud of John. This creates a little psychological distance that makes it easier to be supportive and encouraging. Many successful athletes use this technique. They talk to themselves like a coach talking to a player. Come on, Sarah, you've got this. You've trained for this moment. You're ready. This kind of third-person coaching can be incredibly powerful. Let me tell you about the ripple effect of positive self-talk on your family. When you change how you speak to yourself, you change how you speak to your children, your spouse, your parents. You become more patient, more encouraging, more supportive. You model what healthy self-talk looks like. Your children are watching how you treat yourself. If they see you constantly putting yourself down, they'll learn to put themselves down. If they see you speaking to yourself with respect and kindness, they'll learn to speak to themselves with respect and kindness. You're not just changing your own life. When you change your self-talk, you're potentially changing the lives of generations to come. You're breaking negative patterns that might have been passed down through your family for years. Here's what I want you to understand about the relationship between self-talk and goal achievement. Most people set goals and then immediately start talking themselves out of achieving them. They say things like, this is too big, I don't know how I'm going to do this, what if I fail? What if people laugh at me? This kind of self-talk sabotages your goals before you even start working toward them. It creates doubt, fear, and hesitation. It makes you second guess yourself at every step. But when you support your goals with positive self-talk, everything changes. You say things like, I'm excited about this challenge. I'm going to figure this out even if I don't know how right now. I'll learn as I go. This is going to be an amazing journey. This kind of self-talk energizes you. It creates excitement and determination. It makes you eager to take action and persistent in the face of obstacles. Your goals need your support, not your sabotage. They need your encouragement, not your discouragement. They need your belief, not your doubt. Give them the gift of positive self-talk and watch how much faster you achieve them. Let me share with you the power of preemptive self-talk. This is where you prepare encouraging responses to situations before they happen. You know you're going to face challenges, so you prepare what you're going to say to yourself when those challenges arise. For example, if you know you're going to be tempted to eat unhealthy food, you prepare the self-talk. I choose to nourish my body with healthy food. I feel better when I eat well. I'm proud of myself for making good choices. If you know you're going to face rejection in your business, you prepare the self-talk. Rejection is just part of the process. Every no gets me closer to a yes. I'm building resilience and character. This preemptive approach ensures that you don't get caught off guard by negative situations. You're prepared with positive responses that will serve you instead of sabotage you. Here's the final thing I want you to understand. This 21-day transformation is not just about changing your self-talk. It's about changing your relationship with yourself. For most of your life, you've probably been in an adversarial relationship with yourself. You've been fighting against yourself. But over the next 21 days, you're going to develop a partnership with yourself. You're going to become your own ally, your own supporter, your own biggest fan. You're going to start treating yourself like someone you care about, because you should care about yourself. This shift from adversary to ally is one of the most profound changes you can make in your life. When you stop fighting against yourself and start working with yourself, everything becomes possible. Your energy increases because you're not wasting it on internal conflict. Your confidence grows because you have your own support. Your results improve because you're working as a team instead of fighting as enemies. The journey starts with a single decision. The decision to speak to yourself differently. The decision to be kinder to yourself. The decision to support yourself instead of sabotage yourself. Make that decision today. Make that decision right now. Your future self is waiting for you to make this change. Your dreams are waiting for you to make this change. Your family is waiting for you to make this change. But most importantly, you are waiting for you to make this change. The conversation in your head will continue for the rest of your life. Make it a conversation that serves you. Make it a conversation that builds you up. Make it a conversation that moves you toward everything you want to become. 21 days to transform your life. It starts with the next thing you say to yourself. Make it count.